What's up, everybody? Thanks for watching today, baby. All right, guys, so I decided to make kind of a different type of video today. I know most of my videos on this channel are kind of about me sharing my failures to get off Suboxone. So I know most of this channel probably just looks like I'm a total failure. So I wanted to kind of switch things up and give you guys some background on my life story and just kind of show you what I come from and maybe why I am the way that I am with certain things that I've accomplished, and I have succeeded with certain things, plenty of good things in life. So I wanted to kind of share some of that with you guys. Also, I wanted to make a quick note that if you guys see my live streams, that's probably not the type of video you want to sit through and watch. It's more, when I do live streams, it's more for me just to kind of interact with you guys. That way I don't have to go and respond to every single comment. I'm able to interact with you guys on an instantaneous level like that. So I'm sorry if you guys watch the live streams and they seem kind of boring and unstructured, because they're just me rambling and talking to you guys because you guys are my friends. So just to clear that up, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd like to try to hit 2,000 subscribers by summertime. And I know that we can get there, guys. If I start putting out different types of content, switching things up and uploading more, I know that we can get there. So if you want to be a part of the 2,000 subscriber by summer, go ahead and help us out and hit that button. So, like I said, I know I'm gonna have to talk about something other than just Suboxone on this channel, because I'm not making a ton of progress with Suboxone, and I still want to talk to you guys and go over different things, and also share some of my fitness journey and stuff. So hang tight, guys, and we'll work through it all together. Okay, so let's kind of look back on my life story. And I'm apologizing for the jets outside. I live by a airport basically, and there's constantly jets flying. So if that's what you hear, that's what you hear. So going back, looking at my relationships in my past. So my father, just to give you guys a quick backstory, he struggled with alcoholism, smoking cigarettes his whole life, marijuana and whatnot. He was involved in a accident. He was a garbage man, was what he did. Back when the garbage men would be on the back of the trucks, he was hit at like 4 a.m. Somebody didn't see him and ran to the back of the truck, the garbage truck, and he was on the back. So he got a bunch of money from that, and he was already in alcoholism. So as you guys can imagine, he got into hard drugs, meth, probably crack or something like that. He got a bunch of money. One of his ex-girlfriends had came around once he got all the money, obviously, and smoked up a bunch of his money with him, and they did a lot of drugs together. I actually moved in with him at the time because I dropped out of high school, and I witnessed all this stuff firsthand. So there would be mornings when I would come in his room and he would be passed out with a paint bag that he'd been spraying spray paint in, and he was just totally out of it. I thought he was dead sometimes. There was one time I had friends over to our trailer that we lived in, and he would be smoking a pipe, and I had no idea. I mean, I was 17. I had no idea about drugs. And when we left there, my friend was like, dude, is your dad smoking crack? Was that crack? And I guess that's what it was. So I had no idea. I just knew he would always smoke this glass pipe, and I never asked questions, because he would always make comments like, if you ever rat me out, I'll disown you, or he would say stuff like that. So I never really asked questions. I didn't know what it was. So that's I would see him when I was a child, like every other weekend. I would go to my grandma's house. So as far as like a fatherly figure, he wasn't really that, guys. He never like ever once helped with homework or anything like that. It was more like he was a really fun guy to be around. We'd play football on the weekends. He was the funniest guy I've ever met to this date. He had an amazing personality. He had a great heart, but the addiction really, really kicked his butt. So my mother, she worked when I was a child a lot of hours, like in retail. She worked really long hours. She was a single mother for most of my childhood, probably till I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11. So I just remember she was always at work. Me and my little brother would just do whatever the hell we wanted, basically, while she was at work. We had no structure as far as that goes. I just remember being out all hours of the night, doing whatever the hell we want. And all four of us have different fathers, so there's an unstable relationship pattern with my mother. And then when I was about probably 11 or 12, she married a man, and he was our stepfather for about 15 years. So that was nice to have some stability. However, it was a huge change for me because he was extremely strict. And obviously at the time, I'm not going to enjoy that as a kid, being able to do whatever I want, going from that to being super strict. I once got grounded to my room for a summer for stealing quarters to go buy candy out of his change bin or whatever. Grounded to my room, I had to ask to go to the bathroom. Now, like I said, looking back on this, I'm really glad that he came into my life and put some structure around us, because if not, me and my brother would probably both be dead or in jail. So looking back, I'm very thankful that he did come into our lives. All right, so that kind of gives you a little bit of history as far as how I was raised and whatnot. I always sucked in school. I had no interest in school or homework. I don't think I ever got above a 2.0 grade average. I just didn't care for school other than like gym class, like the fun classes. I didn't care for that. I didn't care for school at all. And I always thought I was going to be like the world's biggest failure. I had no idea about entrepreneurship, and you could make your own business and make your own money. Back then, that wasn't really talked about. Nobody ever really told us about that kind of stuff. So luckily I found my way. So just to kind of go over some jobs and stuff that I've had to kind of just familiar you guys with my life and what I've been through. Maybe you guys can relate to some of this stuff. And if you can, drop some comments. Let me know if this stuff sounds like what you've been through in life. If you can relate on certain experiences, I'd love to hear it from you guys. So I've always been basically in poverty, like from my whole childhood. Money was always a struggle. When my stepdad did come into the picture, I was able to get $1 per week for doing my chores, which was a pretty big amount of chores. So I always had chores, but I was a saver. I wanted a Snoop Dogg CD. It was my first CD. I saved 16 weeks to get that CD, and I saved my dollar bills I got every week. And as soon as my mom heard that CD on the radio, she broke the CD. So 16 weeks I worked for nothing. Oh, that is what it is, whatever. Okay, so I had a paper route when I was very young. I think I was probably 10 years old. I had a paper route. I was out flinging papers Sunday mornings. I worked at McDonald's for $5.15 an hour when I was 16. And I do want to say too that my 11th grade teacher, she knew I was a screw off in school, and she said right in front of class one day, she's like, why don't you just drop out and go get a job and like start your life, start earning money? And I literally said, you know what, that's a great idea. And I got up and I walked out of class and I never came back. So I did go back and get my GED, but I am kind of grateful that she said that, because I was just wasting time in high school. I didn't like being there. I just kind of was there because I had to, really. So that's what I did. I quit, went and got a job at McDonald's at 16. And I feel like that got me a head start above most of my friends, because most of them really didn't work till they were 18, 19 or so. So I was able to start getting money. Then I switched over to retail, like Super Targets, Smiths, all that kind of crap like that. I went through a whole bunch of retail jobs. And then I got into sales at America Online. Do you guys remember AOL? And that really kind of opened my eyes as far as making money. They paid us way too much money there, guys. I was 18 years old, making about $100 an hour after all the bonuses and stuff. And I think that's why they went out of business. It was just kind of like shady, salesman-y to try to keep people from counseling. You kind of had to like trick them. It was very shady, and that was definitely not a feel-good job when you left. So, okay, and then right around this time, my grandpa had died, and I had just lost my job at AOL, and so I didn't know how I was going to pay my $300 worth of rent. thank God my grandpa was responsible. He had a retirement all set up. And since he knew my dad was, you know, not very well that way with finances and stuff, he gave me a third, I think it was, of his money, which ended up being about 10 or 12,000. My uncle called me. He's like, "Hey, I got a check for you from grandpa." And it was literally right before I was about to have to move out because I couldn't afford rent. And that literally, guys, probably saved my life. I was so broke. I had nowhere to go. I didn't know what I was going to do, honestly. I was freaking out. So I think I was 18, 20, right around there. As a kid that's broke, to get a check for 12 grand, that's literally like winning the lottery. And I told myself from that moment on, I would never let myself get in that position again. So I didn't. So from that moment on, I started to buy cars and fix them and resell them, basically flipping cars. I used my mechanic ability. I worked at a shop for like a year, so I learned a lot of mechanics when I was about 17. And from then on, guys, I started making really good money with buying and selling cars. And instead of going and blowing my money like most teens would have done, probably 99% teens would have blown that money, I just went and I just kept making the stack bigger and bigger and bigger. And I just kept working and working and working at it. So, all right. So after a while there, I worked for the government. I had a government job for about 8 years straight, and that was a pretty solid setup. I was able to get a loan for a huge house. I had a 3,200 square foot house all to myself, and it was a brand new house, guys. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful house. So working for the government helped me get some stuff going like that. You know, I've always had great credit. Credit has been a very important thing to me. That is one good thing my mom instilled in me, was make sure you have good credit. Work on your credit. Don't ever miss payments. And I never have missed a payment. Knock on wood. All right. So going back, the government. Okay. And then after the government, after 7 years of the government work, I wanted to do my own thing. So I started selling cars I was going to open my own car dealership, but I talked to my buddy who is a car dealer, and he said, "Hey, just come sell cars with us here. You can buy your own cars and sell them through my dealership." And so that's what I did for probably a year or two. I learned how the business worked, and I also got paid to do it. And I also made money on selling my own cars. So it was, thinking back on my life, if I could go back to one spot, it would probably be right there, because I had to work very little hours and I was making incredible amounts of money, guys. More money than I've ever made in my entire life at this period of time. I was flipping cars, I was getting paid hourly, I was getting paid bonuses, and I was making money on selling my own cars. And that's where the big chunks came in, is when I was selling my own cars. So all those things together, plus stocks and other investments like that, I just was killing it at this point in my life. Luckily, I never got married and had to shovel away half of that to a divorce. I never had any children, so it's just been me. It's been really easy to maintain my own life as far as financially goes. And then I opened my own car dealership a couple of years later, and then I closed it, and then I opened another one. I moved out of state, like kind of been chilling since then, really. I earned a lot of money on that big house I was telling you about. I sold that and I made a boatload of money that was all just untaxed. A huge check just went right to my bank account. And then I made some other investments that made really good money after that. So it's not easy to say. It's great to say that I pretty much have been blessed enough to overcome the financial hardships that I had growing up as a child. You know, I'll never forget, like, I know my mom did the best she could as being a single mother. It had to have been hard for her, for sure, to pay for everything. I know she really struggled, and she really worked her ass off to be able to keep a roof over her head. So I do got to give her props for that. If it had been in today's age, she could have just hopped on social media and just picked up some simp that would just come and pay for all her shit like the guys are doing these days. It wasn't like that back then. She was just working and then paying bills. That was it. It wasn't like a flux of guys was able to just come through. And she still is a very beautiful woman. Like back then, she could have probably got any freaking guy. If she was one of these Instagram models, she probably could have got any damn guy on there to come pay for all of us and all that shit. So too bad for her. She wasn't in the age of social media, but I just thought that was kind of a funny thing to mention. All right, where was I at here? So basically, after I left my government job and I sold my house and had all that money, I just kind of combined everything. And then I opened my dealership, made a bunch of money, closed it, opened it again, made a bunch of money, closed it again. And honestly, guys, right now I'm pretty much kind of just retired. You know, I'm to a point now where I can make it many years without ever working again. I've been that blessed, knock on wood, that it stays that way. Of course, anything could happen at any moment, and that could change. Pray to God that it doesn't, because I really have other things that I need to work on besides making money. So I've just really been blessed with being able to get the hustle. If I need to hustle and make money, I can make large amounts of money in a short amount of time if I need to. So luckily right now I don't need to, so I'm kind of chilling. A couple other things I want to note is that I was kicked out of 5th grade. I had to transfer schools because I was fighting with another kid. My dad used to always have me fight the neighborhood kids, like literally fist fight, just kids walking by when I was from probably 5 to 12 years old. He would have me trying to pick fist fights with little kids. Oh, Dad, you crazy ass. Anyways, so yeah, I dropped out in 11th grade. I went to jail for street racing when I was 18. I lost my driver's license at 17. I still have a stack of speeding and racing tickets about that big. I was a street racer, hardcore street racer. We raced at the track too, obviously. A lot of my family died simultaneously. It was like my grandpa died, next year my grandma died, and the next year my dad died, 3 years in a row. And I was close to all 3 of them. So as you can imagine, the death of losing all 3 of those really important people to me, it was a very hard thing for me. All right. Plus the stressful job that I had with America Online, and then going to the government was also a very stressful job, and neither of those jobs I liked. Combine that with toxic relationships that I was going through. Combine that with my motorcycle accident. You can see how this all was like the perfect storm. That those things all together kind of formed me to being an addict. I was pretty much bred to be an addict, you know. It's sad to say, but it's true, I feel. Almost everybody in my family on both sides struggles with addiction. Almost everybody. Whether it's alcohol or drugs or something else like that. I would say probably 85-90% of my family on both sides struggles with some sort of, most of them is alcohol addiction, and some of them are drug addictions. So I don't think this is normal for it to be like this. I mean, does this sound normal to you guys? I don't think it's normal, but I could be wrong. I only know my life. So tell me what you guys think. Has this been a crazy story so far? It just sounds kind of normal. I'm curious because, like I said, I don't know anybody else's life but mine. So as I always talk about how I kind of fail you guys, and this channel is nothing but a failure, I want to talk about some things that I have, some issues that I have overcome in my life. Okay, so basically from the age of 20 to 35, I was addicted to making money. I knew that it would bring me beautiful women if I had good amounts of money, and that was a major, between that and the lack of money when I was a kid, I never wanted to be broke again. Having experienced poverty so much in my life, I just knew that if I could make a lot of money like I was just really, that's all I could ever think about was making money, make money. And I made a lot of money from the ages of 20 to 35. And I really think if you're somebody in your 20s, and you can go 2 ways with it. You can really start to hammer down your life and work on achieving financial success and financial freedom, or you can go party it up and club it up all the time with your friends and be the cool guy. I mostly chose the money route. I did obviously have a lot of good times in there, but I could have been way worse than I was. So I'm over that money addiction, money making addiction. That's how I looked at it. I really felt like I was addicted to making just huge piles of cash. So I've conquered that addiction. Obviously, the worst of my addictions was my addictions to opiate painkillers. From the ages of about, I'm just approximating the dates here, from about 20 to the age of 35. I mean, a good 15 years, I would say that I was in active addiction, really. For the first probably 7-8 years or so, it was more like once or twice or 3 times a week. But about from my late 20s to my mid 30s, guys, my painkiller addiction was bad. I mean, I got up to spending about $3,000 a month, as I mentioned before, on painkillers. Thank God I had the money to where I didn't have to switch over to heroin like most people do. I would say a huge amount of people switch to heroin just for the simple fact that your tolerance gets so high that you now need higher amounts, and you can't just keep going unlimited with painkillers because it stops to work after a while. So not only are you spending tons and tons of money, it just doesn't work as well. So I can understand why people switch to heroin. I really can. So thank God I never had to switch to heroin, because I've seen a lot of friends die and a lot of friends not make it back from that type of lifestyle. From the age of 22 to 32, I was pretty much addicted to steroids, guys. I know I'm pretty freaking jacked right now for a 40-year-old, but this is nothing, guys. I used to be way bigger than I am. Don't get me wrong. Still got some big-ass guns right there. Ooh, damn, looking good there. And I did want a side note. I just tested my body fat, and I'm 9.4% body fat. I couldn't believe I was that low. That was freaking badass. But I was addicted to that being huge because I was such a skinny runt my entire life, guys. I was always 130 pounds. I was always the skinniest guy. I have a picture where my bicep is smaller than my wrist. I literally have that picture. I don't know if I've posted it before, guys, but I was always this scrawny kid. I'll make other stories about that later. But that was a hard thing to come down from, was the steroid life. I wasn't always on them, but I would cycle them year on, I would be on and then off and then on and right back on, off. Like, I would definitely cycle them, but that was a very hard thing to come out of. If it wasn't for TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, which I have been on for 10 years, it's pretty much like Suboxone. TRT is like Suboxone for steroids. If I wasn't able to get on TRT, I would not have made it, because your hormones don't come back to normal after, guys. They just crash and burn, and you feel like total shit. And if you're a guy, having low TRT is like a death sentence, pretty much. You have to have that stuff figured out, or you're gonna be a walking zombie. But I did conquer that. Luckily, with TRT, I was able to maintain a good looking, I look like this year round, guys. And 99% of guys don't look like this, especially at my age. So I was able to settle and accept this type of lifestyle versus just boom, like massive, monstrous, strong as an ox. Like, I don't really care about that stuff anymore. I just want to be healthy and fit. So from the ages of 25 to 35, I had a really bad caffeine pill addiction and coffee. There was a good few year part of that where I would wake up, I would take my opiates, pop them. Okay, I would put on a cup of coffee, and I would take 3 caffeine pills at a time, guys. Each caffeine pill is worth a cup of coffee. It's 200 milligrams of caffeine. So between that and the coffee, that's 800 milligrams of caffeine first thing in the morning, guys. And oftentimes I would call it caffeine, what would I call it? Caffeine 30 at noon, I would do it again. So that's 2 major doses of caffeine per day, plus steroids. Guys, I literally almost freaking died. I had to go to the ER. I almost passed out. I was driving, and all of a sudden I got really lightheaded. And the doctors were freaking out when they seen my heart scan thing. They were like, okay, something's definitely wrong here. I went to the cardiologist, and we ended up finding out that the caffeine was kicking my heart into, it's called AFib, atrial fibrillation, I believe it's called. It's where your heart is like skipping beats, and I could feel it skipping beats. It really would, it would stop. You could count it. 1, 2, 3. It would do like that. And I always thought it was anxiety, but it was my heart being out of rhythm. And so all of this unhealthy stuff together, I started having these, oh shit, I'm gonna pass out type stuff. So that is what it is. I stopped taking the caffeine pills. I do still take one energy drink a day at worst sometimes, but I'm not buying caffeine pills by the bottle. That's what I do. I'd go to Walmart every week and buy a bottle of caffeine pills and chugging them all day long. And what was screwed up was that I would tell my cardiologist, I was like, I don't think it could be the caffeine because I don't even feel it. And he said, just because you don't feel it doesn't mean your body isn't getting taxed by it. And ever since he said that, I mean, I don't know why I didn't think of that before, but I couldn't even feel 800 milligrams of caffeine at once. I was so used to it. I could probably go to sleep on that dose.